Since it was first announced, the placement of Dragon Ball Daima on the timeline has been something that has puzzled some fans. There have been a lot of questions about whether or not Daima was actually in the timeline with the other series or was branching off into his own continuity. Some people wondered, would it end up being a side story like GT has now become? Or, since it was Toriyama's final project and he wanted to work on this in lieu of continuing Dragon Ball Super, would it replace Dragon Ball Super or anything else? The first episode of the series makes it pretty clear where the show falls in the overall Toriyama timeline for Dragon Ball. And how do we know this? Well, Trunks is celebrating his 9th birthday. If we go back to the early days of the end of the Frieza saga and the beginning of the Cell arc, we meet future Trunks, the mysterious youth who kills Frieza. And when Trunks speaks to Goku, he lets him know that he'll be born in about 2.5 years and the androids will show up in 3 years. This makes Trunks about 6 months old when the androids finally do arrive. Now, I know math has been hard for some Dragon Ball fans, especially with them believing Gohan, who fought Cell, was 11 years old or even 12 years old when he was only 9 years old. But the Buu Saga takes place 7 years after the Cell arc. This would make Trunks 7 years old, or probably closer to 7.5, and about to turn 8 years old. So from there, we know that if Trunks is about 8 years old in the Buu Saga, obviously we see footage of the events of the Buu Saga having already happened, and now he's turning 9. Obviously, Daima must be a year after the Buu Saga, which would place it within a 10-year period of time before the end of Z, 3 years before where Super takes place, because Super takes place around 4 years after the Buu Saga. However, this is where more confusion comes in, because as I discussed in my Dragon Ball Daima Episode 1 review video, Kaioshin is no longer fused with Kibito. And in Dragon Ball Super, which again takes place 4 years after the Buu Saga, so 3 years after this series, Kaioshin is shown defusing with Kibito by using the Namekian Dragon Balls. So this change or inconsistency has led a lot of people to believe that either Super's no longer canon, Daima's a what if or a side story, or now Super's a side story, so on and so forth. When the reality is we don't have enough information, because obviously there is an easy fix to this. If Kaioshin and Kibito fuse back by the end of the series, it will line up everything back with Super. The only question then is, if they defuse this time by just using Majin Buu, why did they need to use the Dragon Balls in Super? But again, that can be answered by the idea that during Super, Majin Buu was constantly going into his hibernation and making it impossible for him to join in certain activities like the Tournament of Power. So now you know, Dragon Ball Daima takes place 1 year after the Buu Saga and 3 years before Dragon Ball Super. Thank you for watching the video, and come back for more Dragon Ball information. Thanks.